Hey folks, welcome to part 5 of our Jurassic World Evolution 3 playthrough. Today we're going to be jumping back into Clark County. We're going to be seeing if we can progress with the campaign mission objectives. And we're going to stay in that area and really build out our park as we attempt to progress the campaign. So we're not going to jump across to East Asia yet. We're going to save those brand new maps. What I really want to do is play out all of the campaign objectives on this one map first, and then we'll expand from there. So join me as we jump in. Obviously, when we left off, we needed to do more with the Geosternbergia, so that's going to be one of the first places we start, and then we'll go from there. So I have to admit, our park is looking pretty huge at this point. I didn't actually realize quite how big the park was already. Now you're going to notice an interesting glitch throughout this sort of campaign playthrough on this map, which is that actually the excuse me, the guests of the park have disappeared. Don't know why, don't know where they're gone, but we're going to see that throughout. So you see, to start with, I'm really conscious that at the end of our last playthrough, the Dilophosaurs broke free. They weren't particularly happy with their paddock, so I'm quite keen to try and get their paddock up to scratch. And what I sort of realised pretty quickly here is although they have enough space, the paddock isn't really big enough to meet their environmental requirements. So sometimes, although you might have enough space for the dinosaurs, it can be really useful to sort of rebuild areas of your paddock so they're a little bit more accessible. You can see I very nearly let some Dilophosaurs out there, but luckily none of them decided to run for the actual door that I'd opened. Would have been a bit chaotic if they did. But yeah, this is me kind of looking at the paddock that I've built for them and sort of realizing that I just can't really hit the balance I want. So then I kind of decided at this point, I was like, right, I've got space here. I might as well extend their paddock a little bit this way. Now, it is worth saying the Dilos were happy once they had the prey. They weren't trying to break out like they were before. So you can get away with an element of environmental dissatisfaction as long as it's not overwhelming. Your animals will behave to some extent, but it can cause you problems in the longer term. So I always think if you've got the space and you're able to kind of really flesh out the environment for your dinosaurs, it's worth doing it. Now, I couldn't work out why that dilo was listed as a threat there. It took me a while, and I wondered if perhaps I'd accidentally deleted a part of the fence, but it didn't appear that I had, so we were all good. So you can see I'm pretty happy with how things are going at this point. We've got it all set up and running. And now the main thing we need to do is get that Geosternbergia. Geosternbergia, obviously originally at the end of the Lost World, a really cool Hammond collection figure. One of my favourites, actually. I think I've got two Geosternbergias from the Hammond collection. So excited to be able to hatch this one. And again, you can see we've got a lot of space now at this point, so it really is just about maximizing this park. And you're going to see as we go on, once we get the geo, the objective does then slowly become getting the park to 5 stars. So what we will do is spend some time on Clark County, getting it up to 5 stars. You'll be able to see how I approach that, what I put into the park, and we'll try and manage it that way. Fair disclosure, I'm not playing this in the traditional way where I'm not trying to get a lot of research done, a lot of those kinds of things. Obviously, if there's a lull in the gameplay and I've got time to do research, I couldn't work out what that sort of repair tool was there for. If I've got time to do research that's going to help the parks, I will, particularly with getting new dinosaur species unlocked and that kind of thing. But beyond that, my main focus here is really just trying to get through the campaign as quickly as possible whilst giving you a good flavour for it. So at this point, we're about 3, 4 hours into the gameplay, I'd say, and you'll see how things are beginning to shake up. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking, okay, I can start to fit more dinosaurs into the park. They're just gonna bring in more income, and ultimately they're gonna help with what I'm doing at the end of the day. So that's kind of what I start doing here. Um, at this point, I'm thinking I've got Compsognathus. It's quite an easy carnivore to contain, so we might as well put Compsognathus in to the park. So we begin to build this paddock, and I kind of slowly realized that I can slope it down a little bit more than I realized. So we extend the amount of space the compies are getting just to make sure, again, they're nice and comfortable. So you can see I'm happy with that. Starting to make sure I put all the things in place for it. And what I have found that I've started to try and remember to do is put things like gates in, put things like ranger stations and have them all pre-assigned so it's all sorted. Just because that makes your life as a park manager a bit easier if you sort everything out. So as soon as it's in place, it's then all automated. You can see that ATV struggling to work out how to get out of there for a second there. So continuing with our lovely approach to power, as I've already said, and assigning our maintenance teams, you kind of get into a flow with it, I find. Once you've sort of played for a little bit, you really get into the mindset of, okay, I need to do this, then I need to do this, then I need to do this. And it's sort of it's interesting because you're automating a lot of the park functions, and I think as a park manager, you become a bit automated yourself, and you're kind of like, okay, right, I know I need to do this, this, and that, then I'm done and sorted. So you can see I'm really just taking in the fact that this is a pretty massive map. So we're going to start our compies hatching and then go from there. Man, honestly, the Clark County map is so pretty. Spend some time looking at our dilos. I think you're even going to get some capture mode gameplay later in this particular episode, because that's something I kind of ended up delving into. So with that, I'm pretty confident that the Geo is going to be at the level I need it to be at to progress forward, which is what we want. I then think, well, I might as well sell these while I'm here. It is a shame that you can't sell genetic specimen samples if you don't want them, because some of the species I'm not bothered about getting to 100%. Controversial, I know. So being able to sell them would be quite useful in terms of getting more income quite quickly. Now, the Lystrosaurus, I decide that we're going to get that genome next. Be good to be able to hatch another herbivore in the park. And that's kind of what my strategy is in the campaign, is really play it safe to begin with, hatch a lot of herbivores, because the risk if they get loose is not as dangerous as a massive carnivore. So we're getting more scientists into the park at this point because they're going to be quite useful. Getting our medium park paths so that the guests stop complaining about it being overflowing. I think that's quite important. And you can see I start to get my Geosternbergia ready to hatch as well. So it's interesting the way the system on this works. Whenever you get a contract, when Kira, for example, needs more money, it is just based on the total amount of income that you have coming in at that specific moment. So it kind of does it automatically in the background for you, and you don't really need to worry about it. So here we go. We're beginning to incubate our compies. beginning to flesh the park out a little bit more now. I kind of take it slow here because I don't want to overload things. Obviously, I've only got a set number of scientists. You'll see me realize later that actually it makes sense to recruit more scientists and have more stuff going on at the same time. But for now, we're just playing it very slow. We're going through the process of replacing some of our paths to just kind of get the free flow a little bit better. It is interesting because it was at this point I noticed that I couldn't see the guests in my park, and I kind of wondered if it was just because I was placing part like the paths down. Like I wondered if they had done a change to the game so you couldn't see guests while you're placing paths, so you can see them more easily. But I quickly realized that that wasn't the case, and the game has just glitched out a little bit, and I can't see any of the guests. And I think Brad had this problem as well, I'm fairly sure. So an interesting glitch there, but something that I'm sure Frontier will patch if they haven't already patched it in the latest release, because they have been doing hot fixes as they've gone and they've been quite responsive on those. So you can see objectives complete for Clark County. You can stay here or go to the world map. Um, I wanted to stay here just because it still gives you the objective of reaching 5 stars. So that feels campaign relevant to me still. But I'm interested in your thoughts, guys. Do you think I should have stayed here to finish it? Do you think I should have gone on to the next area? Do let me know, because if you'd actually prefer us to jump onto the next area at each point, we can do that as well. I'm very much playing this for you guys so you get to experience the full campaign with us. So just making sure our paddock is nice and functional. I do like how on this map you're really encouraged to make the most of the aviaries. So this again me realizing, oh, I've not actually assigned rangers. I need to do that. Quite an important thing, I'd say. And then at this point, what I've got in mind is I know I need to put more dinosaurs in, that's fine. But what I'm really starting to think about is my other flying reptiles. So Quetzalcoatlus, one of my favorite additions to the franchise, and certainly one of my favorite animals in Evolution 2, and obviously here again in Evolution 3. So I know that I want to hatch the Kets at some point. It's just getting to the point of implementing it. So I realised at this point that an easy win for me would be to hatch some more pteranodons, but I didn't actually have space or I didn't have the full genome yet, so I wouldn't be able to do that. So I then proceeded to kind of go about hatching or getting the genome for the pteranodons so I could hatch more of them. Now you'll see soon that causes a little bit of chaos. And I kind of start to run into problems. And this is the thing I kind of find with Evolution is I really enjoy the game, but I think as you get deeper into the gameplay, if you choose to stay somewhere, the game does decide to suddenly start throwing loads of issues at you, and they can become quite challenging and quite frustrating at times. I love how we got the little waterfall effect coming down from the water in the aviary there. I just think that looks so cool. So I'm happy with that. We've got our compy paddock ready to go. I want to immediately put more of them in there because compies you can hold quite a large species size, and actually they need at least two lots. We learnt that in Montana. So I know immediately that I need to do that. And it is basically at this point just about slowly building it. So it's a lot of rinse and repeat gameplay, a lot of kind of going out to find new fossils, getting the full genome for the new fossils, hatching those dinosaurs, etc., etc. At this point, I'm starting to realize I can maybe do with more scientists as well. So here I'm kind of looking at the dig sites. I know I want Quetzal, but you can see Quetzal has got a really big barrier to entry. You need 18 logistics to be able to access it. So really what that means is you need to place down more staff centers, you need to invest in training for your scientists, and you need to get your scientists up to the top level, which can be a little bit of a challenge. I think I've just opened all the shelters because there's a storm coming. Again, updating all of the paths, and actually, I went with the default facility color just because it stands out against the sand a little bit more, so you can see more clearly where all of the paths are, which is quite useful. You can see it's getting darker, that storm is coming in. Sandstorms are a real challenge on the Clark County map because the dinosaurs get quite aggravated. So it's very easy for them to then injure themselves, which in turn can cause quite significant problems for you. If you're not careful, if you're not aware of what's going on, that can be quite challenging. So this is kind of really the first point where I realized that I've not got any paleo centers. And what you're gonna see is I very quickly regret placing down paleo centers because it suddenly leads to a massive string of issues with dinosaurs. And again, you guys might not like this, but I am very much playing this campaign to get the campaign done. So what that means is when dinosaurs are ill, I will rewild them. I will just get rid of them rather than treat them, because it's sometimes the more efficient way to play the game. So if there was a take the dinosaurs around the back of the barn and shoot them option, I probably would be the guy doing that. Don't judge me too much, please. I just feel like in this case it's the most efficient way to play the game because there can be a massive resource drain. I mean, I think I got to the point where I finished playing recently where I had three paleo medical facilities on this map. So I think in part six, you'll see something happen that makes me build a third facility, which is already giving you a good idea of what you're in for. And that can just get to the point where it gets quite overwhelming. I have to admit, I really love the Dilophosaurs in this game. That is why the Dilo is the thumbnail for this episode. I absolutely wanted to hatch some of them. I just think they look so good. Like the new Dilo model. I think you're going to see, yeah. So you're going to see in real time right now me getting the thumbnail for this episode. And the Dilo model looks so good, man. They just look really, really cool. They look exactly what you would imagine a Dilophosaur would look like, which sounds stupid, but I just think Frontier have really nailed it, and there's definitely a lot more definition in the models. Now, the gameplay quality you're seeing, it's not going to be as high res as somebody who's playing on PC, so you can see things like the grass aren't as high res as you might expect. But that's because I'm playing on Xbox Series X. And I have to admit, it does still feel like it works pretty well for Xbox Series X. It's not horrific at all. So it's really nice to see the dinosaur models. And one thing I am looking forward to playing through the campaign is hopefully releasing more of the new dinosaurs. That is something that I am going to try and do. I will be honest, I'll hold my hands up and say I can't remember exactly which ones are new, which ones are old, but we will give hatching some of them a go. I think at this point, I'm again just taking in the fact that this park is actually pretty massive. You can see we've got all this terrain down here that we can build in. I was kind of thinking, oh, it would be cool to maybe do a lagoon down here, but I don't know if I'm going to research that on this map. But initially, I just really wanted to make sure that we had everything covered that needed to be covered. So you will see we're working towards those increased flying reptiles, those increased dinosaur counts, but it does take time. And something I realized recently, actually, it might be in this episode or it might be in the next one, is when you hatch a new dinosaur into an existing population, suddenly the requirements for the different areas go up. So the, say, amount of pasture you need, it will go up depending on the number of dinosaurs. So that makes sense. It's logical because the dinosaurs are all going to be using the same space, but it's something I hadn't noticed until I was playing this. So gets quite stressful, and you'll see why, because I basically only have so much space, and a lot of the space has been used. So at this point, I can see the Dilophosaur is injured, so there's not much I can do about it. And you're about to see exactly what I was talking about, which is me deciding that I need to find my capture team. I need to tranquilize this dinosaur because it's infected with something that I don't think I'm going to be able to resolve. So, in this situation, when we're this far into the campaign, it made sense to me to just take the opportunity to rewild it. I saw that the Dilo was marked as a threat to the truck, so I wanted to kind of look at it. And this is absolutely hilarious. You can see the Dilophosaurus. You can't really see it there actually that well. You can see it a little bit better in game, but the Dilophosaurus was underneath the truck, so that was the issue that had occurred there. So again, like I say, we're rewilding this Dilophosaurus. It's just gonna solve some of the headache. It is a shame. It's sad to say goodbye to dinosaurs, but sometimes it's just a better way of running your way through the campaign. So at this point, I'm starting to think that actually getting more scientists is going to be quite useful. So we research the ability to place another staff center. Because obviously, if we can place another staff center, we can get more scientists, which is what we really want. I don't know why I thought there was water there. There's not. It's all dried up. But at this point, I'm kind of thinking, okay, I want to get ready for the Quetzalcoatlus. So I know that longer term, I'm going to get the Quetzalcoatlus. So what I'm starting to do here is really build the enclosure that the Quetzalcoatlus can be released into. So I know that it's the largest aerial predator. I think it's the largest. Perhaps Draskin is quite large as well. But I decide that we need to build a relatively large enclosure. Luckily, the dinosaur alert that happened just there was inside the enclosure that I just built anyway, so it wasn't a huge issue. but we start to build this out and pull it all together. And again, this is a big enclosure, but my hope with this is we might be able to put a couple of different animals in with the Quetzalcoatlus, perhaps. We'll see how that goes. So we've got our viewing galleries in place ready to go. This is kind of the approach I like taking with this. I like to really get the facilities ready to go and then put the dinosaurs in. Because I think if you cover the facilities, if you build kind of roughly enough space, you're then covered, and everything else you can just kind of sort out as you go. So here again, it's all about sorting out my paths, going into this new area, making the most of it, making sure that everything's linked up so it's all nice and ready to go. So obviously we've got to put some generators down and taking my usual approach of putting down a couple of generators just so we are nicely covered. Got to put down our maintenance stations as well so we know that we are going to be maintained. And I decide at this point that it's worth putting down another maintenance station as well. So interestingly, what's only just dawned on me is you'll see in a little bit that the rating will go down to below 95% maintenance. So that's something that I'm going to need to resolve. I don't resolve it in part six, but it's just clicked on me that I've built these buildings here, but I haven't put any maintenance in place for those buildings or indeed the maintenance building itself. So that's something that I'll need to do. This is the useful thing about watching these back when I do the commentary is I sit there and think, oh, why did I do that? And then obviously it prompts me to change what I do going forward. So just taking in really the fact that we've got so many aviaries on this map now. We've got four. We'll probably build a fifth one as well at some point down the line. I reckon we'll be on this park till maybe part seven, part eight of this series, just to get it up to that 5-star rating, and then we can start to look at other stuff as well. I do always love trying to squeeze stuff into places. Terrain tools are not my best friends. Oh, we're gonna get there in the end. Are we, aren't we? Keep it. There we go. Get there in the end. And I immediately know that the person who's disgruntled needs to just take some time to chill out. Just taking the opportunity to train some of the staff so they've got their skills up a bit. And this, you'll notice I put a lot into the logistics, and that is because I'm planning on using these guys to go and get me the Quetzalcoatlus. So there we go. We've got enough to go and get the Kets now. I set that going. It is the longest sort of research task that we've done so far, but it will mean that we can add the Quetzalcoatlus to this nice big paddock and get a really cool aerial animal added into our park. I do think the Clark County Park is going to be a really fun map to build on in sandbox mode. I'm kind of trying to avoid spoiling too much of the campaign for myself. So I know the final campaign map because I wanted to build on that one straight away. But beyond that, I deliberately haven't spoiled much else for myself. So hopefully it means I just enjoy things as we go. But you can see what I spoke about earlier, that jump in real time there as I release the Pteranodon they suddenly need more space. So that is something to keep in mind on a map like this. It's interesting that a lot of the different animals dislike the hybrids as well. I find that quite funny. Although that's, to be fair, seeing an aerial hybrid would be very cool. Mutadon, looking at you. Perhaps in a Rebirth DLC. So at this point, I'm kind of starting to think, okay, I need to do some terrain management, and I need to build a space to put new dinosaurs down. I was kind of hoping that I could get away with just doing aerial animals on this map, but it starts to become very clear that we need dinosaurs as well. I mean, you can see in the objectives panel, one of the objectives is to reach 10 total dinosaurs. So I think I'm going to set up a paddock. I kind of like the idea of making it a slightly elevated paddock, so that's sort of what I'm trying to do here. Just trying to flatten it out a bit, so I'm going to have a nice space where I can build said paddock. And then I think, okay, I sort of want it all to be on one level, really. I kind of start thinking a bit about the elevation as well. But that is where we're going to leave it today, guys. So we will come back in our next part to look at how I use that terrain to build some paddocks. We are going to hatch some more dinosaurs in part 6. So do make sure you come back for that. Like, favourite, and subscribe if you've enjoyed. And I will see you with our next episode very soon.